Alright, you see this fire? This is how I'm solving my power problem. This is what it's come to. That's right, we're just chucking a whole bunch of wood into the fire and turning it into charcoal. But you're just gonna have to trust me, because this is more sane than it sounds. Hello everybody, I'm Martin. Welcome to another episode of Glacial Awakening. And today, we are going to solve the power problem, maybe, possibly, hopefully, or at least get it slightly better under control. Because I've realized a couple of things. One, the diesel generator I was gonna make, that ain't it. Because of how power hungry the squeezer and the fermenter are, I don't even think it's even worth doing, especially since we would have to dramatically scale up our seed production to even make this work. But I did go through all of the other power sources available, or all the ones I could find at least, and I realized there's a problem. A whole lot of them are just disabled or have massively changed recipes. So I think what we're down to is the diesel generator that I don't want to make, a nuclear craft fission reactor, except I only have 11 uranium there in that drawer, so that's not going to last very long. I suppose there's the mechanism fusion reactor as well, but we aren't even up to mechanism yet, so that's kind of going to have to wait. We need something that works now. So what we have are thousands and thousands and thousands of logs, and there is something that might work for this. Because there is the Petrified fuel generator from Industrial Foregoing, which now that we have the industrial machine chassis, we can make. And this is important because while you can burn almost anything, you can burn in a normal furnace in this, and these all burn at the exact same speed regardless. They just generate more power based off of how much they have. One of the things that can burn for an awful lot of power are blocks of charcoal, which burn for 800 a tick. And these normally burn for 80 for each piece of coal, but they burn for 1 extra if you turn them into a block. And well, as I just showed, we can just set a fire and make as much charcoal as we want. I can probably also pretty easily automate that, although I don't know if there's an actual fire starting device in this pack. That seems to be one of the things that's missing, but flint and steels aren't that expensive. And honestly, now that we have the chassis, neither is this generator. So I think let's go plug one of those in and see how this works. Alright, so I just plopped that down and made a bunch of blocks of charcoal right now to test this out. This is just all temporary just to see how this works, because I want to see if this will stop generating if it is full power. Let's just toss those in there. We can see that we're burning for 800 a tick. This is very quickly filling up. This burns for 30 some seconds at a time, but if this fills up and stays capped, and it looks like it's constantly producing, however. So that's unfortunate. I wonder if we can turn this off. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have to add like an RF monitor or something to send a redstone signal to turn this off so we don't burn excess coal when it's full. That is thankfully something I've done before. Let's see if we can afford what it takes though. Because what I would normally use is the power monitor from Ender.io, and it looks like we can probably do this, although we need to make another chassis, but we need to make a bunch of those anyways. And the conduit probe, which, oh, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. This is all stuff we can make, I think. So let me go put together another industrial machine chassis and figure out how to wire this up in a way that is not a complete disaster. Alright, so I think I've got this mostly wired up correctly now. I'd forgotten how much of a pain the redstone conduits are because they appeared backwards in the interface. Like if you look at this top one here, because the output says strong signal and you would think output means output from here, it actually doesn't. You want the arrow facing out of it, which is weirdly the input one, at least in 112. You also have to force connect the conduit onto the Petrified fuel generator with the Yeta wrench. Like if we pop that off and put it back down, we need to use this. We need to use that to reconnect it. Well, if I'd hit the right side. There we go. And then you notice that this will be set up incorrectly to begin with, but we just need to turn that off. And then, if we look at how I have this set up right now, you can see that this has all the information on the network, including the power and the capacitor bank. Coming over to the redstone page, we can tell to emit a signal. Right now I have it set to turn on when the capacitor bank gets lower than 96% full, and to turn off when it gets to 98. I'm going to shift this to 50 and probably 75 later though. But right now you can see this is ticking down very quickly to the 96% mark. When this gets down to 9,600,000, it will kick right back on. Alright, and now you can see that it just immediately clicked back on, and now we have spike traffic handled. and that this is now back to burning out these blocks again and slowly using up these charcoal blocks. So now all I have left to do is clean this whole area up, connect the magnetic craft power back up to the capacitor bank, and then go handcraft a whole bunch of coal blocks just to get this prepped and ready. But now that we have spike traffic handled and we do have the means to backfill, we can actually go start working on a couple new things. So while investigating all of the power options I had and thinking I needed to increase my farm to handle out the diesel generator to create a bunch of seeds for it, I was looking into solutions on how to fix that too, and I realized one of the things I can do is make the Ender.io farming station, which is frankly a rabbit hole of its own because we don't have a bunch of this stuff easily made right now. But this is obtainable, we could do this. Except it opened up a few more questions and made me think about a few things. Because while we can do all that, we can dive down that hole and we could set up the farming station and reroute power, and that might help me with a couple plants I can't easily make, I had to start questioning the why on that. Because if you remember last episode, I opened up chapter 5 and kind of blinked and went, oh no, this is an awful lot of stuff that they're not showing the intermediary steps for, which is true. This is potentially really bad stuff, depending on how they have this set up. We can just kind of power through this and maybe finish this pack, because I looked at chapter 6, which is this one's bragging rights equivalent, and frankly, it's chock full of stuff like this jar of raw eggs, which if you look at it is just a jar and eggs. Now, they're not all like this, but this was a good stark reminder that this is not an expert pack, it's just a weird one. And we just need to get through chapter 5, and we are pretty close to done, other than the additional challenges section, which this might be kind of a pain. I mean, Time Master we're going to have no problem with, but like Energy Master requires 100 billion power, which we just aren't at. And then the Chemistry one requires the periodic table, which is this last chapter right here, which is a bunch of all of these. I don't know how bad those are, and I don't know if I actually even want to do those last two sections. I might just finish this pack out. So I think I'm going to start automating the things I know I need to do to progress, instead of chasing my tail on things that I don't necessarily need right now, in large amounts at least. And one of those things that I know that I need are Grains of Infinity, and it might be overdue time to actually automate that, because it's actually not that hard to do, and we can do it the actual legitimate way that Ender.io wants you to do it, with firewater, or we could do it with lava setting things on fire constantly. I think I'm just going to go with the firewater way because it just generates it passively over time and you only need a single bucket. And to make it, we just need to make a vat and just use blaze powder and redstone, which we have, as well as some hooch, which is also made in the vat off of just random stuff that we have lying around. We just need to make enough of it. In the vat, the main blocker there was the industrial machine chassis. So this isn't too hard to do at this point, although we do need more electrical steel and we do need dark steel ingots, but we can do both of these. The dark steel mostly just being steel combined with obsidian here, or iron, carbon dust, and obsidian inside the arc furnace, which is the cheaper one that doesn't require steel already being made. I'm going to need to dig this area out, and then we'll go make a vat, and then we will see how we need to progress, because this is actually kind of a pain because there's an awful lot of ice down here that will melt if it's lit up. Alright, and one vat made. I really need to start getting more of this stuff automated, because these industrial chassis are kind of a pain to make. It's going to be a cabling nightmare though, because so much of this involves Magneticraft and or immersive engineering machines. But now we can put in our ingredients and throw in some water, and now it's consumed the potato and the sugar. It should make 1 bucket of hooch. And there we go. And now we can take the hooch out, put the blaze powder and redstone in, put the hooch back in, and now it's cooking the firewater that we need. And there we go, 1 bucket of firewater. Now we need to make a vacuum chest to pick them all up. And the thing we haven't made here is the pulsating crystal. But the pulsating crystal is easy, it's just pulsating iron surrounding a diamond. And this is just iron and an ender pearl, which we now have, well, not a ton of, but significantly more than we had before. Although I already have some pulsating iron nuggets, so this isn't a problem. So we now have the vacuum chest, and that's everything we actually need. Well, other than a whole bunch of cobblestone to fill in the ice that I have to go patch up. Alright, so maybe don't be me, and don't vein mine ice thinking it might not all turn to water and cause you to take a much longer amount of time clearing everything out and replacing it with stone. But I've got the vacuum chest set up with a brazier to dump it all into. Now all we have to do is put some firewater down. I could make this bigger, I could use up the whole chunk, but I just don't think I'm going to need that much. Also, see this blue glow here? This was me testing the range on the vacuum chest. If I turn this off, it goes away because we were standing inside of it. But now all we have to do is dump out our firewater. And from here on out, this will just slowly generate grains of infinity over time, and the vacuum chest will just suck it up and send it straight to our base. There went one right now, I think. Yep, there we go, back in the chest in our base. So we just need to put this in a drawer somewhere, and we now will just produce these passively. Now that said, that doesn't completely help us making the capacitors, because this does require star metal ingots, which we can't easily automate at this point, because we have to go out to where the collector crystal is way ways from our base, and then we would need power to do anything to be able to do block placers and gatherers, just like we have over here for our latex processing area, and I don't want to have to deal with setting up power somewhere else right now. That said, a lot of the same things that use the normal capacitor can be replaced with this silver capacitor here, which is a bit easier to make because it only requires silver nuggets instead of electrum and lead instead of a star metal ingot. That said, one of the big things it can't make is the simple machine chassis. So at some point, hopefully not too far in the future, we're going to have to get back into astral sorcery and make the means to automate that. Alright, so I think the last thing we're going to do today is actually progress for the sake of progression. And we're going to continue on through Ender IO, which is the end steel chassis right here. And to make it, we need to make end steel ingots, which thankfully isn't all that hard. The main obstacle is going to be needing to make end stone, because we already know we can make dark steel and we can just go mine obsidian. To do this, what we really need to do is go make the upgraded alloy smelter, because if you see the word disabled on the simple one right there, yep, that's a problem. So in addition to making the alloy smelter, I think I'm also going to make the sag mill, which has similar requirements, because this has also come up as something I could use and would be useful in a couple recipes previously. So I think I'm going to go bang out those two machines to help me progress, and then we can move on to the end stone chassis. Alright, so we've got both of these machines made and or upgraded. I replaced the old one, but I didn't actually use it to craft the other one in case I want this lying around. And because honestly, it was actually cheaper just to make this one versus trying to reuse this one, which would require I also make a simple powered furnace and another simple machine chassis. It was easier just to eat the roots of runestones instead. So that part's done. Now to make endstone, we have a couple of options. We can either use the coring recipe for it, which is actually not that bad, but it requires sentient cores, which can be kind of a pain to make and to create the graphs for because they're expensive in soul essence. Or we can just do a starlight transmutation with sandstone, and we have plenty of sand right now, so I think I'm just going to go do this at night and just go get a bunch of this real fast. Laziness for the win. Alright, and now we have our end steel ingot, and man, I really need to put better capacitors in this. I'm only using the silver one, which is equivalent to the basic one. I need to at least upgrade it to the next one. And there we go, progress. Which just like everything else gets us no rewards. Anyhow, this got us through our power problems today and solved a lot of our issues going forward. So now we can actually start reasonably automating things and getting the base cleaned up some. Like, I really don't like the way things are laid out, and the machines are downstairs are a mess and I need to put them, I don't know, anywhere else. Preferably a spot that's easier to automate them and run power. I also need to run new power cables that are better because I've only got the lowest ones down there hidden under the floor. Probably need to create a natural crawl space under that floor so that I can actually do that reasonably and maybe move power gen down there or something. I don't know, I gotta think about it. I also probably should increase the number of lasers on my laser base now that I can afford the power from it. All things to think about and do, and maybe get some of it done in between episodes. Anyhow, if you found this episode interesting or entertaining, please consider leaving a like or subscribe if you're new. As always, I'm Ard. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.